Welcome everybody. Welcome to Global Education's Virtual Expo. We're very excited tonight to introduce a university that we love to support. They're called NHL Stenden. They're a University of Applied Sciences, and we've got their international South African representative for the region, this Jasper Hofman, here with us today. So we're going to give it a couple of minutes, and then I'm going to introduce Jasper again to everybody and then hand over to him for the presentation, and then we'll have sort of like a conversation about the university life in the Netherlands as well, what it takes to sort of be an international student, all the COVID updates, as well as we're all, having those conversations on a daily basis. And we'll have a bit of a Q&A session at the end. So please don't hesitate to ask your questions in the chat box and the Q&A. Both myself, I'm George, and Jasper are available at any time in this conversation as well. We're just going to give it a couple of minutes, let a few more people sign in, and then we'll get started. All right, everybody. I think it's time that we get started and we introduce NHL Stenden to you. Jasper, I'll let you take it away and share your screen from now. Thanks again.
Thank you very much, George. Let me see, put them in slideshow mode. Well, thank you very much for joining the NHL Stenden University of Applied Sciences presentation. My name is Jasper Hofman. I'm like George mentioned, and I may call him Nico later on during this presentation because that's his brother's name apparently, and I sometimes mix up the two of them. I will be hosting a 20-minute presentation followed by a Q&A opportunity for all of you. I didn't include a slide on COVID in my presentation, but I would like to kick off my story with some COVID updates from the Netherlands. Realistically speaking, those of you who are attending and are probably eyeing September 21 or a later intake, it's good to realize some aspects related to COVID and higher education in the Netherlands. Universities of Applied Sciences and NHL Stenden, amongst them, we do offer hybrid education at the moment, which means a blend of offline and online learning. Realistically speaking, it's more online than offline at the moment, but practical components of our teaching still takes place on campus. We follow strict guidelines, of course, from the health ministry. We've got strict hygiene and safety measures in place. But one thing we do expect, and that is that by the months that will follow, restrictions will ease. We expect the pandemic to be much better controlled in a couple of months with higher vaccine penetration in the Netherlands as well. So we're quite positive about those of you who want to start in September and the prospects of having real on-campus education. That being said, as opposed to other countries, it is important to realize that international students are welcome to arrive in the Netherlands, provided they've got a visa or are being exempted as EU passport holders of going through the visa procedure. International students are a special category defined by the Dutch government and are welcome to enter the Netherlands. So if you are looking to enroll, you can enroll. Furthermore, yeah, we'll monitor the government advice. Typically, every 2 to 3 weeks, we'll get updates, which will ensure information for the next 2 or 3 weeks. And please also monitor our website nhlstenden.com for future updates regarding COVID. Why studying in the Netherlands, in Holland, which is exactly the same, but being used kind of interchangeably? First and foremost, of course, it's the quality and reputation of our higher education institutions and our education system in general. Next to that, of course, we all speak English. Dutch is our own language, but everybody in the Netherlands is able to have a proper conversation with you, or even better, in English. Our teaching community speaks English, and there are also more than 120,000 international students from across the world studying in the Netherlands. Our degrees are more affordable typically than degrees from the US, the UK, or Australia, or Switzerland, to give a few examples. That's because the majority of universities in the Netherlands are public institutions, and public in the context of the Netherlands means strong, high quality universities with very good government backing in terms of funding and resources. Basically, every program you potentially look for will be available in English in the Netherlands, with the potential exception of nursing. I think that's the only program you will not find in English in our country. So you're really spoiled for program choice in the Netherlands. We've got straightforward visa procedures, very important to realize. Universities take care of your visa application basically, and we take care of the entire procedure for you, as we are recognized sponsors by the Dutch government. Also important to know is that for students, we have post-study work visas in place, so you are allowed to have access basically to the local job market for at least 12 months, provided you've completed a bachelor, master, or PhD program in the Netherlands. Some facts and figures about NHL Stenden first. We're a top 3 University of Applied Sciences in the Netherlands, following domestic Universities of Applied Sciences rankings. It is important to know that universities of applied science in general will not be found in Times Higher or QS rankings, because those are largely based on research output. As a University of Applied Sciences, we have a different focus in our education. We provide career-oriented, higher professional education with a very clear job profile in mind when designing our programs. So our programs are very fit to meet the demands of industries, being it teaching, being it IT, being it hospitality, business, media, or whatsoever. So that also results in a very high employment rate from our graduates, at least as high, or in many cases even higher, than graduates from research universities. NHL Stenden is a public university, well resourced by the Dutch government, with about 23,000 students, almost 3,000 international students coming from just over 100 different nationalities. Very important feature of our programs, our undergraduate programs, are the opportunities to do or actually having a mandatory internship as part of your degree, which makes you very employable and gives you an opportunity to really put into practice what you've learned during your study program, and also have the opportunity to do an exchange or tailor-make your study program by selecting specific minors, which are kind of specialization opportunities to fit into your degree, to learn something for a semester about which you would like to learn something specifically about. This is our main campus in the Netherlands, beautifully refurbished campus building in the northern part of the Netherlands. This is our main building. And this is where you will find us in the Netherlands. Obviously, from north to south, we're about 3 hours by car or train, depending on your preferred traffic mode. Our main campus you'll find in the city of Leeuwarden, which is in the northwestern part of the country, quite close to the city of Groningen, which is actually my hometown, where we also have a smaller campus. We've got a campus in Meppel and one in Emmen. Most of our programs we teach in our Leeuwarden campus, followed by Emmen, and only our 2 teacher education programs are offered in Meppel and Groningen, respectively. Well, you may want to know, how far is this from Amsterdam? That's obviously a question we quite often get. It's going to take you about 2 hours by train, by public transport, which is obviously very well organized in the Netherlands. Very strong rail and road connections in our country. This is a slide with our international network. Next to having campuses in the Netherlands, we also have campuses in Qatar, Bali, Indonesia, and also in Bangkok in Thailand. Plus, we've got a small campus in Port Alfred in South Africa. I will show you a small slide later on about that particular campus site as well. And the countries marked green on this particular map are countries where our students can go to for a particular part of their program during their undergraduate exchange. Having these international campuses abroad is a very unique feature for a Dutch university. Also increases staff and student mobility, so makes your experience also at our campuses in the Netherlands more internationally. And it's also a great opportunity, of course, if you study in the Netherlands, to go to one of these overseas campus sites to pick up a specific cultural experience and learn one of those specific minors I told you about it earlier on. Our South Africa campus is located in Port Alfred. Maybe you can just see the Indian Ocean right here because it's on the shores of the coastline over there. A beautiful small campus located in Port Alfred, 5 minutes walk to the beach. And this is a campus where we offer 2 undergraduate programs, which are hospitality management and disaster relief management. So small scale campus with students predominantly coming from African countries, South Africa, Zimbabwe, Zambia, Botswana, and a couple of other countries. Plus, it welcomes about 200 to 300 students from our Dutch campuses. Typically, every year, students from the Netherlands and other parts of the world as well, who go there for their specific minors, for example, in wildlife, lodge management, wine studies, or in other types of minors that are available over there. Fees in our South Africa campus are slightly lower compared to our Dutch campus. I will show you the slides of our undergraduate programs in the Netherlands here. Fees are 8,350 euros for all these programs listed, for students with a non-EU passport and students with an EU passport, because they are subsidized and have the same rights as the Dutch students, are just paying just over 2,000 euros. Fees in our South Africa campus are around 100,000 South African rands per year, exclusive of accommodation opportunities. The programs we offer in NHL Stenden in the Netherlands range from international business to hospitality, creative business, business administration, tourism, leisure events, logistics, IT, marketing management, and 2 very unique programs in teacher education for international primary and international secondary schools. Now, all these programs are obviously very different in terms of what kind of industry you're being prepared for, but they're all very similar in structure, in the sense that you have these mandatory internship in the final part of this program. You have a very good balance between theoretical learning and more practical application. It's not just about individual learning; it's quite a lot about project work with fellow students and working in groups of mixed nationalities. And you work together on projects also in very close cooperation with the industries. 4-year programs, like I mentioned, all of them commence in September every year, and the first 6 listed here also have a start in February 21. These are the entry requirements. We've listed a couple of requirements here. National Senior Certificate, with minimal requirements for admissions to a bachelor's program, or, for example, 2 AS levels, ABC, plus 4 GCSEs, ABC, or 2 A levels, A, B, C, D, E, 6 different subjects in total, so depending a bit where you are, from which curriculum you are attending. Strangely, as you may find so, is that in general, we don't ask for very specific subjects. Has to do with the fact that we compare our entry requirements to requirements of the Dutch students, where it's more about having enjoyed some overall quality secondary education, but not very specifically related to some subjects. And also think like subjects like hospitality or creative business, for example, they don't require very strong subject knowledge already before you commence a program. People often ask, can I be accepted with Maths Lit, which I believe is a very common phrase in South Africa. It's possible indeed. So that's one of the subjects we also accept. Typically, students from South Africa or Zimbabwe will also be exempted from an English language test, and otherwise the requirement is Ielts 6 overall or an equivalent test score. We have a number of programs which are available as 3-year tracks. The typical duration of the programs I just showed you earlier on is 4 years. The 3-year tracks are basically condensed, accelerated versions of the 4-year programs, leading to exactly the same degree. These are hospitality management, creative business, and also tourism management. So the pace in these programs is basically higher. Still, you have the full year internship in the final year of the program, but there's a difference in terms of the entry requirements. For example, the NSC is not accepted as for admission to this program, but 3 A levels will do the job. And also an international baccalaureate diploma is one of the accepted qualifications for these programs. These programs, 3-year programs, also have a course-specific selection procedure, which the 4-year programs do not have. And the entry of the language requirements for English are exactly the same as well. These programs only start in September and don't have a February intake, so it's also important to notice. If you have a qualification that makes you eligible for both the 3 and the 4-year programs, well, you have obviously the choice between them. It is important to realize that it's your choice to make. Basically, if you want to, if you think you're ready for an academically more intensive track, the 3-year program is probably your best fit. If you want to also have, if you want to be lower the pace a bit during your program, and also have more opportunities, for example, to enjoy student and social life, maybe a 4-year program is the best bet for you. So that's in that case an individual choice for you to make. It's not the university is going to decide whether you can be admitted into the 3 or the 4-year program. That's your own choice. I already mentioned something about our strong ties with the industries and practical learning. I would like to give you one striking example of a so-called learning company we have in our campus in Leeuwarden in the Netherlands, which is the Notice Hotel. It's a recently refurbished 4-star hotel. We had this 4-star hotel on our campus ground already for over 20 years. But in November, it reopened after an upgrade. 36 rooms are now in place, including junior suites. And it's a commercial hotel which is run by our own hospitality management students, the first-year students taking care of the operational parts of service delivery. Year 2 students supervise the first-year students. Year 3 students manage an entire team of supervisory and operational staff, and in year 4 you do an internship in a company outside the campus premises, of course, so within one of the leading hotels around the world, with whom we've got very strong connections. This is a perfect example of a learning company of NHL Stenden, where, for example, or in this particular case, our hospitality management students spent a total of 20 weeks throughout the 4 years of their undergrad program, and learn the basics, but not just the basics, but also some managerial experience already from different departments in the hotel. It's a commercial hotel, so real guests are coming over there, and they expect a real customer service to be delivered by our own students. So very unique facility. Our other programs also have learning companies in place. Think, for example, of an IT lab or a media studio for our creative business students on our campus as well. This is an example of the junior suite. I haven't been able to visit this place, unfortunately, myself, due to lockdown affairs at the moment, but at some time later on in our Dutch spring, I'm positive of paying a visit here as well and see this beautiful new hotel through my own eyes. The Notice Hotel. At NHL Stenden, we currently got 3 English taught master programs in hospitality, service management, tourism, leisure and events, and content and media strategy. 1-year programs with a fee of 11,800 euros for that one particular year, only commencing every year in September. So as opposed to research university masters, these masters are, like a University of Applied Science is supposed to do, are more industry oriented and are of course are research heavy, but it's more about applied research as opposed to very fundamental research. For example, students in our content and media strategy master, they also compose a content and media strategy for an actual company as part of their degree studies. What is important to note is that we require a related bachelor honors from South Africa. Just a 3-year degree won't cut the mustard for you in order to be admitted. It needs to be an honors degree. Ielts requirements are similar as those for bachelor programs in case Ielts cannot be exempted. We admit students for our master programs actually on a very case-by-case evaluation, looking at your degree, looking at your motivation, eventual work experience, although work experience is not mandatory per se. We also look at your English ability, so basically try to shape an overall picture of your academic profile. Master programs only start, as I mentioned, in September, and the deadline for non-EU students is June 1st to apply, same deadline as for our bachelor programs. Have an EU passport, you can apply later, up until mid-August typically, but in any case, that's not recommended. If you're seriously looking at September 21 as an intake, both for undergrad or postgrad, the ideal window to apply is anywhere between now and say early April, also to take advantage of enough preparation time, also to secure housing options, for example. So that's an important thing to mention in addition. We have 2 scholarship programs worth mentioning, both for undergrad students. First of all, there's the Holland Scholarship program, a 5,000 euro entry scholarship awarded every year to the 15 best bachelor candidate profiles that submit an application to an undergrad degree program, and a separate application for the Holland Scholarship program. Plus, we've got a merit-based excellency scholarship program for students ranking amongst the best 40 non-EU bachelor students in year 1 and also in year 2. So that's basically a program you've got perfect control of based on your own academic performance. Although we are multi-campus, so I showed you already where we've got our campus sites in the Netherlands in place. Most of our international students are studying in Leeuwarden, which is actually the cultural capital of Europe back in 2018. A very charming, traditional Dutch city. It's got about 100,000 inhabitants in total, of which about 25% is actually a student. There's one other University of Applied Science in the Netherlands, or in Leeuwarden as well, and also the University of Groningen's got a small campus in the city of Leeuwarden, but the place is dominated by NHL Stenden students. It's a very cozy, comfortable, safe place to study. Holland, in general, of course, got very low crime and accident rates, and smaller size cities such as Leeuwarden even are considered even more safe and comfortable to live. It's about 2 hours by train from Capital Airport, about half an hour by train from Groningen, to give you a few examples. And students really value Leeuwarden as a lovely place to be, with friendly people, accessible housing as well. So great place to spend time as a student without the distractions of a metropole like, well, let's name a few: London, Sydney, or perhaps even Amsterdam. We've got guaranteed furnished housing arrangements for our non-EU students, so that's something not to worry about, which can really be something to worry about in other Dutch cities. Some accommodation is right across the road from our main campus. Other accommodation options are in town, so the concept of dorms and such is not very common in the Netherlands. Most students live outside the university environment, and typically if you're in year 2 or 3, you'll find something on your own with friends or fellow students on the private housing market. But this is something we guarantee for you after being admitted and having accepted your place at NHL Stenden. Yeah, it's. I think my 20 minutes are pretty much over by now. George, maybe you want to take back
Yeah, for sure.
Will you?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Let's leave your slide on. It's a beautiful city there. View of that's Luden there as well, right?
Yeah, it's the same city indeed. Yeah, but just from a different perspective. Yeah, it's close to the central station here.
Awesome, Jasper. Thanks very much for that information. We've got a list of questions here that students have sent through that we'll like to get through with you. And then there's a couple that have been asked so far on the Q&A section. So we'll leave the Q&A section for a little bit longer, see if there's any more questions that come through. I wanted to ask a little bit about NHL Stenden's views of international students and why has it got a focus for diversity at the university? If you could just explain a little bit more about the values of NHL Stenden for international students.
Yeah, well, it's. I think it is important to realize that Dutch universities have a bit of a different attitude towards international education as opposed to some other countries. We really want to create an international environment. Netherlands already has got, is a very intercultural place to be and live. And we want to stimulate universities to also offer such an environment to our Dutch, but also to our international students. And the students attracted to NHL Stenden and the Netherlands in general are those that are looking forward to such open-minded place to live and study. I think that's a very important motivation for the majority of our students to come to the Netherlands. Of course, we're a well-connected place as well, and the high quality of our system, and NHL Stenden also in particular amongst them is a big driver for students to explore these study programs.
Yeah, no, it is very true that we love talking about the value of studying in the Netherlands in terms of you've got Europe, the gateway to Europe is just, at any point in time, if you want to go to the weekend to Greece, to Italy, to Spain, it's all accessible. Okay, post-pandemic will be a lot easier. On to that question, What's happening currently with students, especially for international students that are on campus? Is it all remote, or is it a bit of mix of some on campus, some remote with the pandemic? If you could just answer that again, please.
Yeah, well, most of it at the moment is remote. Some of our students are actually also attending education from their home country, so just from behind their computers. Having said that, also a large population is still in Leeuwarden, Emmen, Meppel, or Groningen to at least have the opportunity of live education once or twice per week. Up until mid-December, the offer was the offline offer was more generous. But since mid-December, we're pretty much in a serious lockdown. But there are already some signs that from early March it will be less strict. So more and more on-campus education should become available by then, provided, of course, we contain the situation a bit as it is right now. Obviously, the Netherlands got a bit of a different strategy or approach compared to some other countries. And we're very much anticipating, the vaccine distribution, which of course has already started, in order to allow population, but also students to return to normal as soon as possible. And I think it is realistic to to be in a situation in September where, pretty much all our education will be on campus again. International students also have access to the vaccine program through their health insurance. It's also an important thing to mention here.
Yeah, brilliant. Yeah, that's very good information there. I'm going to read a couple of questions from the Q&A section. So if anybody's got any more, please put them through. And by all means, no question is silly to us, and we'll appreciate anything that you do ask.
Absolutely.
So here we go. So the first one from, I'm going to say, the anonymous attendee. Does the university offer social work?
Social work as a study program, you mean?
Yeah, I'm presuming so, yes.
Yeah, what we do in Dutch, but it isn't available in English. It's a popular program for Dutch students. Having said that, I'm not sure whether it's whether it's highly realistic to have good employment prospects as an international student in that particular field, because many of your clients will be Dutch speaking in general, and it will require quite an effort from you to also master that language in order to be qualified for social work positions in general. That is something to realize for some other subject areas as well. For the more internationally oriented subjects like hospitality or IT, for example, or international teacher education, absolutely no necessity to learn the local language. But for some other areas, if you want to seek employment in the future, it does matter to learn Dutch.
Yeah, well answered. And it's such an important position that as well. No matter what you study, you need to be looking at that employability and looking at that future, especially in the world that we live in, how drastically it's changed with the pandemic. So I think for us at Global, we really appreciate NHL Stenden for that focus on being employable straight after you finish your degree, doing skills that are actually, life lessons that are, work related straight away. So we really appreciate that.
And what is very important to mention related to employability, we see that in many industries, actually, companies prefer to hire, from the internal queue, which means that, our students who are performing an internship do have the opportunity to, to prove themselves. And because they've got this opportunity in the final year of the program, they've already experienced 3 years of education. And are also, more advanced in their studies during their final year internships. Plus, they've got pretty much all of their credits earned, which also makes it possible and actually quite easy for them to instantly transit into employment after graduation. And that's one of the big cornerstones, one of the important cornerstones of our programs, these integration with industries.
On campus, and something that I kind of regret from my international experiences, I didn't take up a lot of the support that the university I went to. Could you explain a little bit more about NHL support systems for international students, not just for mental and well-being in that, but the employer support, and helping people look for these businesses and look for networking opportunities?
I missed a few words of you, but I think I've got the question. I think I've got most of the question. We got quite a strong support system in place. First of all, every student arriving in the Netherlands will get an academic coach instantly after arrival, or at least as soon as the program commences. So you've got somebody with whom you can discuss your progress in eventual difficulties throughout your career as a student. We also have a student success center on our campus, which is also there, to help international students with with study or socially related questions. We invite, for example, coming back to employability again, we invite companies also to industry fairs on our campuses, where we provide students with the opportunity to network and discuss with companies, like what kind of options there are in place for them after graduation. That's another very strong link. And of course, there are placement offices in different faculties, making sure that students have access to quality internships in their degree program. So these are the things we really pay a lot of attention to on campus to create the best possible opportunities for our international students.
No, thank you very much, Jasper. I've got another question here for you. This is also from an anonymous attendee. If I have an EU passport, does that increase or decrease my chance of acceptance?
Well, whether you've got an EU or a non-EU passport is totally irrelevant when it comes down to your chance of being accepted. We just look at your academic profile, so your high school diploma basically, and that's basically it. Whether you are from country A, B, or C, it doesn't absolutely matter. What does matter if you've got an EU passport is that you pay very different fees. There's a big difference or substantial difference in terms of tuition fees. And it is important to add that if you have an EU passport, you are eligible for the EU fees, even if you've never lived or even spent an hour in Europe before. So that's the big difference. In addition to, of course, differences in application deadlines, not having to go through a visa procedure, and also have unlimited access to part-time jobs as an EU student, whereas visa students will need an additional work permit in order to be allowed to work part-time, for example. But there's no relation between passport and the chances of being accepted at all. No.
Right. Next question I've got here is, this one I think this one's going to be an interesting one. Yeah, this one asks, why are Dutch universities, specifically comparing to the UK and America, cheaper? So I think they're looking more at the tuition side here, and my answer, yeah.
Yeah, well, I'm not an economist, but it largely has to do with funding. Dutch universities, as opposed to British and American universities, and also Australian universities, are well funded by the government, which means that I'm not going to dig too much into finance, but for example, you saw the difference between EU and non-EU students. Whereas the EU students pay just over 2,000 euros, the universities get a supplement from the government per enrolled EU or Dutch student. So the actual value or the actual income of the university is much higher than what the student pays. And because of this supplement, we also are of course able, not just able, but by law are required to maintain the fees at a certain level. Plus, since we're public, we're not even allowed to make any kind of profit. So there's absolutely no reason for a Dutch university to charge very high fees. And we also, accessibility is a great good in the Netherlands. Accessibility in terms of fees is one of them, but also accessibility in terms of entry requirements is a different one. You may also have noted that, for admission into top schools in the UK or in the US, the admission requirements are different to the ones in Dutch universities. But in the Netherlands, you've got a right to an education, which means that if you achieve certain, basic academic standards, you'll be provided with a chance to prove yourself and get admitted. And then it's up to you to really deliver, to make sure that you are, that you actually deserve this opportunity. So what we often hear from international students, if they compare themselves to friends they've got studying in the UK, for example, like, yeah, geez, it was quite easy to get in here, but you Dutch universities, you really make me work harder. So that's a bit of a different attitude. But going back to the to the cost and expenses part, it's all got to do with funding. Yeah.
Brilliant. Yeah, that's interesting as well, and we value that. It's easy to get in, but you're going to work, and it's the way it should be as well. You get some real life experiences with that.
Yeah, and in addition to that, in year one you need to, and also in year 2, 3, and 4. But in year one you need to earn 60 credits in order to progress into year 2. If you haven't achieved 50 out of those 60 after the first year, you're not even allowed access to year 2. You'll be, dismissed basically and kicked out of university across the Netherlands. That's a rule, and that's also to counterbalance the admission standards. So there's a combination of accessibility, but then also an incentive for students to work hard. If you're a genuine motivated student, you don't need to worry about this 50 out of 60 goal you need to achieve. But it is something, of course, in place to make sure that students who are attracted to these accessible requirements and don't perform, we don't want to have the taxpayer, for example, funding a system for that particular type of student. So there are some things to bear in mind related to that.
Yeah. Got a question from a student here, which is great to see. And another anonymous attendee. Please feel free to put your names here. No, we're not, we're not going to be calling out anybody for any questions here. So please don't be shy. If you are a British passport holder living in South Africa, we've got a Brexit question here. So if you are a British passport holder living in South Africa, are the fees the same as an EU passport holder or the same as a non-EU holder?
Yeah, well, that's the Brexit question, of course. Up until December, I would have said EU fees, but after 31st of December and following the agreements that have been made between the European Union and the UK, British citizens qualify now as non-EU passport holders and non-EU students also when it comes down to fees when applying to NHL Stenden and Dutch universities in general. Yeah. So if you somehow have the opportunity, to fix yourself an Irish passport or something, which is quite possible, it seems, for some British families, or another passport, I would, strongly recommend that. But if you've got a British passport, you're considered a non-EU student at the moment.
Yeah.
I'm sorry for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's nothing we can do on that front.
Discuss with Boris, please. Yeah.
Yes. I've got a question here. This is from the team. In terms of scholarship opportunities for students, are they the one that was for 15, only the top 15 excelling students? That's fair enough. The other one that was on that slide, could you just explain a little bit more about that? There's a little question here that's been noted.
Yeah, the first one indeed was the entry scholarship, which is quite limited in availability. The second one is a performance-based scholarship, which is available to the top 40 best performing non-EU students after year 1 and after year 2 of each study, each academic year, basically. So we rank these students basing in descending order on the number of credits and eventually also their GPA achieved. So that's a very automatic thing we rank, and those 40 students will be awarded with a €2,000 scholarship, which can be earned twice, of course, after year 1 and after year 2.
Yeah, great. What's one thing you would give advice to somebody that was that done the application, that was ready to come to NHL Stenden? What would be your best advice to them in terms of them helping set themselves up for a successful time in the Netherlands?
I think it's very important to get yourself some proper first-hand information, preferably from someone who's already studying with us, or someone you can relate to. We can make such connections happen. We've got a service available which is called Meet a Student, where you can submit a request also to speak to one of our current students. I would really get, wherever you're going, whether it's to us or anywhere else, get yourself some good first-hand information to make sure your expectations are going to be met. Because looking at a website, looking at fancy glossy magazines, it's the voice of the student, the actual student, that is your most important resource of information. So, you know, find such a buddy. That's very important, I think. Yeah.
Yeah.
And another question or another advice I'm always giving is related to budget. You know, studying in the Netherlands, obviously, you notice is not as expensive as in some other places, but you do need to expect to pay an additional 8,000 to 10,000 euros per year for your housing and living expenses and such. And in particular, don't expect to earn part-time job income already instantly after arrival. So have sufficient budget available, in particular for the first 6 to 12 months, when you also need to settle into a new culture, new education system, you know, meet new people and such. You don't want to run into worries instantly, having not sufficient budget allocated for your studies. I think that's also very, you know, very sincere advice. And every now and then I see students running into these problems, and you know, that would really be a shame, actually.
Yeah, yeah. No, it's very good advice. And, you know, the more planning you do, the better you feel, the more safe you feel as well. And you can focus on your studies, which is why you're there. You know, it's all about that finishing your degree.
And the meeting students, we've got an increasing number of students from South Africa, from Zimbabwe, also from other parts of the African continent joining our program. So you know, it is there is certainly somebody you could refer to in our school to get you that first-hand information.
Yeah, brilliant. Global has an alumni function of its business, so we help connect students with previous students going to that university, so we can help with that as well. And Jasper, you're available, I'm available, so please reach out to us and have those conversations with us. You know, the more information you get, the better you'll feel, and the safer you'll feel as well. And knowing your family as well. If you're an undergrad, you know, studying abroad is, even if you're an undergrad or sometimes even a postgrad, sometimes a family decision as well. I've got one question here from me here for you. What's your favorite thing about NHL?
It's what's the favorite? When I'm walking around on campus, when I was walking around on campus, to be a bit more specific, I think, you know, the vibe of having young people on a campus ground speaking, you know, different languages, you know, sharing, exchanging ideas and experiences and information. That's a great vibe at NHL Stenden. I'm really proud of that. You know, these cultural, you know, intercultural communities that, you know, work together. That's what I'm really proud of.
That's pretty much all the questions that we've been given and provided here. So you got any more questions for Jasper? It's a real treat to have him on this webinar here with us live. So please, if you have anything that's pertinent that you'd like to ask. Yeah, Jasper, thanks very much, man. It was really good to learn about NHL Stenden as well. And, you know, I really appreciate what the Netherlands does. I love the culture. You know, I work in logistics and transport industry. So it's, you know, Rotterdam port, one of the world's busiest ports in the world. You know, the infrastructure there, it's a phenomenal place for students to learn and grow with.
Absolutely. Yeah, logistics is definitely something we are exceptionally well known for.
Yeah, no, it's great. It's good to see that as well. Do you have any questions for us, Jasper?
I don't think I have at the moment, actually. No. It's the end of the day here then for me, I guess. Yours is about to start, and George, there in Perth, or what's the time now?
Oh, we're just hitting 2:30 in the morning almost, so it's bedtime soon for us. But yeah, no, in South Africa it's in the evening time, so we'll say thank you to everybody for joining in. It's been a lovely presentation, and great to learn a little bit more with these Q&A questions at the end. So thank you, Jasper. Really appreciate your time.
Thank you very much, George. Thank you very much, crowd, for attending this session.
Oh wait, we've got one more question. Oh,
I think it's a thank you note.
Oh, thank you, Jane. Appreciate that. We look forward to hearing from you. Thanks, Jasper. All
Thank
the
you.
best, everybody. And please contact us at Global, contact us with Jasper directly. We're available at any time. So look forward to hearing from you.
Have a good night.